Pour a cup of coffee and wait until it's just cool enough to drink without hurting. That's around 50 degrees Celsius. There is serious, published, peer-reviewed evidence that the mitochondria inside your cells are running at that temperature right now. And there's equally serious physics saying that's impossible. Nobody has resolved it. That argument has been going for 7 years, and today I want to walk you through both sides, because I think watching a scientific disagreement play out honestly is more useful than any single fact I could hand you. Let's start with what everybody agrees on. Your body temperature sits at around 37 degrees. That's the number in every textbook, and it's the temperature at which essentially all of our laboratory biology gets done. Everybody also agrees that mitochondria make heat. In fact, they make most of your heat. Here's the mechanism. Mitochondria take the food you've eaten and the oxygen you've breathed and run them through the electron transport chain to produce ATP. But that conversion isn't efficient. Roughly 40% of the energy released gets captured as ATP. The other 60% is dissipated as heat. That's not a flaw. That's how a warm-blooded animal stays warm. You are heated from the inside by billions of tiny furnaces, and the leftover heat from making energy is what keeps you at 37 degrees in a room that's colder than you are. So if mitochondria are the source of the heat, they must be hotter than their surroundings. Heat flows from hot to cold. That part is not controversial at all. The only question is how much hotter. Now here's where it gets interesting. In 2018, a group of researchers published a paper in PLOS Biology. They used a fluorescent dye called Mitochondrial yellow. Two things make it useful. It changes its fluorescence depending on temperature, and it accumulates specifically inside mitochondria. So in principle, you can measure the temperature inside an organelle, in a living cell, without disturbing it much. What they found was that mitochondria were running somewhere between 7 and 12 degrees hotter than the cell around them, which puts them at close to 50 degrees. And they went further. They argued the mitochondria weren't just incidentally hot. They appeared to be optimized for it. Their enzymes seemed to work best at that higher temperature. Think about what 50 degrees means in a human context. If your whole body reached that, it would be a fever well beyond anything anyone has ever survived. It's higher than the highest body temperature ever recorded in a living person. That's a spectacular claim. And to their credit, everyone involved treated it like one. The journal itself did something unusual. Because of the extraordinary nature of the claims, they commissioned a separate cautionary article to publish alongside it, written by an expert in cellular energy at University College London. I want to pause on that because I think it's genuinely admirable. A journal published a striking result and simultaneously published a piece saying, essentially, everyone please be careful with this. That's not how sensational science usually gets handled. Usually the press release goes out and the caution shows up years later, if ever. Alright, now the objection. And it's a serious one. The problem is physics, specifically heat transfer. Heat moves, spreads out. And when you calculate how heat should behave across something as small as a cell, using standard thermodynamics, you get a very clear answer. The maximum temperature difference you could sustain between one part of a cell and another is on the order of 100,000th of a degree. Let me put those two numbers next to each other because the gap is the entire story. The measurement says 10 degrees. The physics says 0.00001 degrees. That's not a small disagreement. That's a factor of a million. Either the measurement is capturing something other than what we think it is, or our understanding of how heat behaves at that scale is missing something important. In 2020, researchers published a review titled The Conundrum of Hot Mitochondria. Their conclusion was direct. This cannot currently be explained by the laws of physics, even at nanometer scales. And they suggested that further investigation of both the biology and the physics might be needed to resolve it. I appreciate that framing. Not the biologists are wrong. Not the physicists are wrong. Something in one of the two fields is incomplete, and we don't know which. Now, has this been quietly resolved since? No. And that's why I'm telling you about it today rather than treating it as settled history. Researchers returned to the question recently, and the work still points in the same direction. There's discussion of an intrinsic capacity for heat generation possibly linked to proton pumping and to the electrical potential across the mitochondrial membrane. which would suggest something about how these organelles handle energy that doesn't fit the classical picture of passive equilibrium. There are also fair questions being asked in the other direction. Could the enzyme complexes of the electron transport chain even hold their shape at 50 degrees? Do mitochondrial membranes have unusual properties that let them stay stable at that temperature? Those aren't rhetorical objections. They're the specific things you need to check. So the honest state of play as of right now is unresolved. A striking measurement, a serious physical objection, and an active argument. Now let me tell you why this actually matters beyond being a good story. The original authors made a point that I keep thinking about. Almost everything we know about mitochondria was established at 37 degrees. The activity of their enzymes, the permeability of their membranes, the consequences of genetic defects, the effects of toxins and drugs, all measured in labs held at human body temperature. If the actual temperature inside a working mitochondrion is meaningfully different from that, then a lot of careful measurements were taken under conditions that don't match the real thing. That doesn't mean they're all wrong. It means there's a question mark that most of the field wasn't accounting for. And one of the researchers commenting on it made a broader observation that stuck with me. Heat has fallen out of fashion in biology. Whether or not these specific claims turn out to be right, the heat generation of mitochondria deserves to be taken more seriously than it has been. Alright, what do you do with this? Nothing, and I want to say that plainly rather than manufacture an action item. There's no temperature you can adjust. There's no protocol here. This is a video about an open question, and the honest answer to what should I do about it is that you shouldn't do anything about it because nobody knows what it means yet. What I point you back to is the same solid ground I always point at. When it comes to actually improving mitochondrial capacity in humans, the evidence keeps landing in the same place, which is muscle contraction. Movement. That's not exciting and it's not new, but it's what holds up. As for what I promote, it stays narrow today. All the heat we've been discussing comes from the electron transport chain, the structure inside mitochondria that produces ATP. CoQ10 is one of the carriers in that chain, physically moving electrons between complexes. Levels tend to decline as we get older. I'm not going to connect that to anything about temperature, because nobody has studied it and the connection would be invented. If you want to support that machinery, the link in the description below is an affiliate link to Mitochondrial, which is PQQ and CoQ10 with a 90-day money-back guarantee. And if you like videos where I show you an argument instead of pretending there's a settled answer, subscribe. That's what this channel is. This video is educational only, and it's not medical advice. Talk to your doctor before starting anything new.